Alright guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make the rear 90 air intake. For those of you who don't know, making or doing a rear air intake is one of the easiest things you can do to improve the performance of your ski, while also kind of cleaning up the engine bay just a little bit. But also, if you have a supercharged ski, it makes an incredible sound. Not so much on the 325s because they changed the supercharger design, but on a 300 and prior, that's how you get that like jet engine sound. It's super easy to make. There's not much to it. It really helps clean out the engine bay. You can get rid of a lot of hoses and things like that. There are drop-in air intake systems you can buy online that are pre-made for you. They're like, you know, $200 to $300 or whatever they are. I'm going to show you how to make one yourself for super cheap. It really just comes down to a silicone elbow, a coupler, and then the air filter itself. So I'm going to pull this out and I'll show you how to make it, and we'll get started from there. So depending on which ski you're doing this on, I have a 325 here. This is the factory air intake, and it really just kind of mounts to the supercharger, comes around the top, and there's a tube that comes through, and then it directs into the factory air box. If you have a SeaDoo 300 or 230, 215, 260, whatever, you're going to have a elbow that looks similar to this, but instead of going over the intake manifold, it's just going to kind of loop around like this, and it'll send a tube that goes under the intake manifold up to the front. So very easy to take that off. There's just, you know, a hose clamp that goes to the supercharger, hose clamp on top, and then you can pull it off. If you're doing this on a 300 and prior, I highly suggest that you just leave the tube, the plastic runner tube that goes under the intake manifold. Just let it stay there. It's not doing anything. It's not in the way of anything. It'll kind of just come to a stop in this area right here. And if you ever decide you want to go back to stock or anything, it's there. It's super easy to get to. If you do want to remove it, you kind of have to remove the manifold, which, you know, it's not difficult at all. Just to kind of break that piece loose, and then you can slide the whole piece out. But that's just if you have a factory setup. Very easy to get that factory part out. So this is the rear 90 intake that I made, and it's really just composed of Amazon parts. So this is all SeaDoos have a 3-inch inlet on the supercharger. Doesn't matter which year. This is a 325, it's still 3-inch. The 230s are a 3-inch, the 300s are 3-inch. So you're always going to need a 3-inch inlet. And for better airflow, I always do a 3-inch to 4-inch expansion. So this is just it's a 3-inch to 4-inch silicone elbow that I bought off of Amazon for like $10 or $15 or whatever. It came with the hose clamps. If it doesn't, you just want to use stainless hose clamps. Every auto parts store has them. They're super cheap. You can even buy bags of them on Amazon. Just make sure they're stainless, because if they're not, they'll rust out pretty quickly. And then the next part is, this is just a 3-inch PVC coupler that I got from Home Depot for like $1. And that is really just acting as a coupling between the actual air filter, or the element itself, and the elbow here, because the elbow and the filter are both rubber. You obviously can't join them together. You have to have some kind of hard medium in between. If you don't want to use PVC, you can buy like a 4-inch carbon fiber coupler on Amazon. You can use stainless steel. You can use anything you want, just as long as it matches the diameter of the elbow and the air filter. I chose PVC because it's super cheap, super easy to work on, and it just, you know, there's no reason not to use it. And then the air filter itself, this is a K&N Marine Flame Arrestor air filter. So it's hard to even call it an air filter because you can see right through it. But it more so just kind of keeps bigger parts of debris from passing through. So if I drop a screw or plastic chunks, rubber gaskets, things like that. It'll stop that from passing, but it's not really doing much for like dust. But out on a when you're out riding on the water, there's very little dust anyway, so you're not sucking anything in. Plus the factory SeaDoo setup, there's no filter anyway. With that being said, you can use a standard automotive car air filter, K&N filter, if you wanted to. The only downside is if it ever gets wet and you saturate that cotton wick, it's going to act like it's like trying to breathe through a wet rag. It doesn't act very well. The only thing you really want to stay away from is any air filter, like a cone filter like this, that has a plastic insert on the inside. So this is just rubber, it's just a rubber cap. But some air filters will have like a little piece of like a plastic that sits on the bottom, and it's just glued in. You want to stay away from those, because if for some reason that plastic piece falls off, it's just going to go and get sucked right into your compressor wheel, and you'll completely destroy it. So when you're looking for filters online or in the store, realistically, any filter that does not have that bottom piece is perfectly fine. And I'll try to find a picture online and reference it so I can put it in this video. But this is just a standard 4-inch inlet K&N marine air filter. And then the other thing you need to consider is the height. So this is, I don't know how tall this is, 3 or 4 inch. You just want to make sure that it's not going to stick up too high, because if it sticks up, you're obviously not going to be able to put your engine access cover back on. You can obviously adjust the height of the filter based on how far you put it onto this coupler. So if it is too high, you can just kind of lower it down, or if it's too low, you can raise it up. Super easy to install though. So that's pretty much all there is to it. And the other consideration that for some reason every time you look these up nobody ever really tells you is that if you are not using a catch can and you're going to be using this factory ventilation, crankcase ventilation, which just ties back into the air intake, you're going to need to put a threaded barbed adapter in, just like this here. Now I do have a catch can, but I have a recirculating catch can, so it has to go back into the intake. And I'll post a link for this as well. This is just something I got at Home Depot for $1 or whatever, but I just kind of drilled through the PVC. I actually have a video of that, so I'll post it in here as well. Pipe thread to kind of tighten this up and fit it through. So we'll do that now. If you're going to go and you're going to use a catch can, you don't need to do this at all. You would just build the intake and that's it, because a catch can will have its own routing of the. Actually, I have one over here. Let me see if I can get it. This is on my friend's ski. So normally this crankcase vent would just go right back into the air intake, but since he has an aftermarket air intake and he's using a catch can, the crankcase vent loops around and it goes off into the catch can instead. So there's nothing that needs to be done for the air intake. It just comes right off the supercharger and that's it. We don't need to put any more ducting into it. And like I said, I did that on mine because I switched from a standard vent to atmosphere catch can to a recirculating one. So I just had to put this barbed adapter in. And I can give you more information on that if you want that. But that's all there is to it. It's a very simple thing to install. You can build this for, I think the marine air filter was like $59 or $69. I'm not sure. I'll post a link of it. But you can build this for, you know, $75 or less. If you decide to go with a automotive air intake or air filter that does not have the mesh rating, you can get those for even cheaper. They're like $20, $25. So you could build this whole intake for like 50 bucks. There's no need to spend $200, $250, $300 on an air intake when you can do it yourself for cheaper, plus it's more fun in my opinion. The only consideration, in fact, I won't even say that. One of the most debated topics you're going to hear about online is that people will say, well, the downside to this is that all you're doing is sucking in hot bilge air. So therefore you're going to sacrifice performance. And and that's simply just not the case. When you are riding at full throttle on these, your entire hull is going through full air exchanges at a rate of 2 to 3 full air exchanges per minute, which means that at full throttle, all of the air that's in this hull is getting fully replaced 3 times. So there's simply just not enough time for the air intake to grab hot air. Second, the factory air intake is literally passing it. There's additional hoses. It's going under the hot engine into the air box, which is then saturated and heat soaked. So you're definitely getting an air improvement over stock. And then third, I've actually done some data logging, and I'll try to post some results where the intake air temperature with a rear air intake is quite a bit lower from the factory setup. I don't remember the exact numbers. I think when I know for a fact when I did my pool with this air intake, I was getting 109 degrees Fahrenheit at full throttle. And I believe the full throttle pool with a stock intake was like 115 or 116 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's definitely a decrease in the intake air temperatures, but you're also getting a lot of the restrictions that are involved with the factory air intake. It's cleaning a lot of things up. So these things are just, I mean, there's so much benefit to these. That's why so many people run them. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm gonna put this back in. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. I will be posting the links for the stuff that I used here. The Silicone Elbow, this is just an Amazon find. I'm not sure if they even still make this one or not, but either way, I'll post a link for one that you can find, and if that link ever goes bad or whatever, like I said, it's just a 3-inch to 4-inch 90-degree silicone elbow. There's like 500 options on Amazon, so very, very easy. If you guys have any questions, just let me know.